what do couples fight about the most, right? Money, sex, and the kids. I can't help them with the other two, but if that big bucket of stress in life we call money is solved, it really just makes everything better.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Gathering the Kings podcast. I am your host, Chaz Wolf. Today, we welcome Mark Podolsky to the King stage. Mark is widely considered to be trusted authority on buying and selling raw, undeveloped land. He has completed well over 6,000 unique transactions and has been crushing this real estate niche for over 20 years. Dude's got massive success record. Here's what we cover in this episode. 1, how to make money through investing in land.
To me, it is the best passive income model. And I can walk you through exactly step by step how I do it.
2, we talk about how people get bored with making money. Yes, seriously.
I see it happen all the time. People get bored with making money and then they complicate it. It's true.
And we also talk about the land geek and how he shares how he crafted his own lifestyle on his own terms.
For me, total freedom is the freedom to work when I want, where I want, and with whom I want.
Comment down below. Tell me your best dad joke, because you know you heard me pull off 3 or 4 of them in there. Enjoy the show. Mark, my brother, welcome to the King stage. How you doing today, man?
Chaz, pulse is normal. Respiration's fine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
The audience needs to buckle up because it might go fast and right over their heads if we don't pay attention. But Mark, I appreciate you being here. Tell us what kind of business that you got, man.
Yeah, so I've got several businesses, but my mission in life is to help people solve not just their money problems, but their time problems. And so the way that I do that is by creating a passive income in raw, undeveloped land. And so once your passive income exceeds your fixed expenses and you're totally free, you've got the time and the energy and the resources to go and live your best life.
You've got a story, obviously, of how you did this for yourself, and you weren't just making a little bit of money that you had to replace. You've got a background where, that was quite a large income that you had to replace. I want to get into some of that, but tell me about freedom first. Why does passive income overcoming my expenses give me freedom?
Well, because it's really that idea that you can be sick, you can lose your job, anything in the world, and it's a very uncertain, volatile world, right? And so it's sort of the antidote to financial insecurity, knowing that you have this income stream coming in every single day or every week or a month that you've already done all the work up front to get. And so if something should happen, you're taken care of, your family's taken care of, and it's just the antidote to financial insecurity. I don't mind. I mean, cash is great, but you got to pay taxes, and then you got to find, more cash. Where cash flow and that passive income is just, I think, king.
Yeah.
Of
king of all income, right? But you also think dirt. You even wrote a book about how to get rich on dirt. Why is dirt, or undeveloped land, as you call it, why is that king versus all the other real estate options?
Yeah, so dirt is a little bit unique in the sense that you're talking about a very inefficient market, number one. So you can't go and look at the MLS and be like, okay, that dirt is worth this. So it's really what a buyer and a seller agree to. So it's very inefficient. And there's very few of those left, number one. Number two, you couldn't think of a more boring real estate niche.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go on HGTV or the DIY network and say, flip this, land, or flip this dirt. The before picture is raw land. The after picture is raw land.
Yeah.
And then, so you're talking about something that's very non-competitive. So if you go to a RIA meeting, a Real Estate Investment Association meeting, 100 people in the room, 99 of them will be landlords, house flippers, and wholesalers. You and I would be the only land guys there. Yeah. And then you're talking about a massive market. There's billions of acres of raw land available in the United States. And you, me, a million people can be in this niche. We'll all run out of money before we run out of deal flow. Yeah. And there's not big money in it. There's not private equity groups. There's no hedge funds. They have too much money for the niche, which I'm going to walk you through anyways. And then it's really interesting in the sense that you've got this asset you don't have to maintain, you don't have to protect, and you don't have to deal with a tenant. And so to me, it is the best passive income model. And I can kind of walk you through exactly step by step how I do it,
I
how
definitely
it
want to give
works.
you the chance to do that. I think the obvious question for the entrepreneur who's probably listening, maybe they're a real estate investor as well, but you put a tenant in a property, you wholesale a deal, put an investment and remodel and then resell it. There's an exchange happening with raw land. There's nothing. Where's this money coming from?
Oh, so where's the money coming from? I'll walk you through it. I'll walk you through it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So Chaz, where do you live?
I'm in Kansas City.
You're in Kansas City. I lived in Kansas City. I lived on the plaza. In Overland
Oh,
Park. What part are you in?
there you go. I've been in Overland Park, but I'm in Martin City area,
Okay,
kind of
great,
south of the
great. Okay,
Missouri side.
so
Yeah.
all right, so you're south Missouri side. You're in Kansas City. Go Chiefs! And I'm going to assume that you own 5 acres of raw land where I live in Arizona,
Yeah.
and you owe, let's say, $200 in back taxes.
Okay.
So you're advertising two important things. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to that raw land. You're in Kansas. The property's in Arizona. And number two, you're financially distressed in some weird way because
Mhm.
when we don't pay for our property taxes, we don't value that property in the same way. And as a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, Chaz, if you don't pay these property taxes, you're going to lose this property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your 5 acre parcel for the last 12 to 18 months. I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale, let's say it's $10,000, and divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm going to send you an actual offer of $2,500. Now you accept it. Why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. In reality, 3 to 5% of people are going to accept my quote unquote top dollar offer.
Sure.
But now that you've accepted the offer, I'm going to go through due diligence or in depth research and confirm you still own the property. Confirm that the back taxes are only $200. I want to make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances. And so I'll outsource this to my team in Jamaica. They're connected to an American title company. It'll cost about $11. Now, if I was investing more than, say, $5,000, I'm not going to take any title risk. And I'll just close traditionally through a title company.
Right.
But this is only $2,500. And so everything checks out. Give you a check for $2,300. I give the treasurer a check for $200. I own it free and clear. And now, Chaz, I'm going to sell it 30 days or less. I'm going to make it cash flow like your precious rental home. So I have a
Love it.
built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
Ooh, the neighbor.
The neighbors. You're right.
I
The
am? That's
neighbors.
awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy. Protect your views. Know your neighbor. Often the neighbors will buy. If they don't, I'll go to my buyers list. The buyers list passes. I'll go to a little website you may have heard of. It's the 15th most trafficked website in the United States called Craigslist. I'll go to another one that's even bigger called Meta or the Facebook buy sell groups in the marketplace. And then I'm going to go to the lands. Landmodo.com, landsofamerica.com, land.com, landandfarm.com, landflip.com, landhub.com, landcentury.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the secret is in the pricing. So all I'm going to ask for is a $2,500 down payment for someone else to control that 5 acre parcel owned by the famous Chaz Wolf. And then I'm making a car payment.
Right.
Let's say $297 a month and 9% interest for the next 72 months. So it's a one-time sale. I'm going to get my money out on the down payment. I could go 6 to 10 months out. And then I'm going to make it a car payment, $297 a month, 9% interest, the next 72 months. Chaz, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this onerous real estate legislation. So then it's a simple game. Can we create enough land notes where our passive income then exceeds our fixed expenses and we're working because we want to, not because we have to?
I love it. Love every part of that. Thank you for following my very facetious ask and leading you right to the equation there. Also, an entrepreneur, maybe an investor, is not familiar with land and thinking, well, what the risk I see there is then what if they stop paying me? And if I have a bunch of people stop paying
Fantastic.
me, then there goes my passive income. What happens, Mark?
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, and it's a great question. So, and by the way, an entrepreneur, they don't want to build themselves another job. And
Right.
so this is the business and a machine, a passive income machine of buying and selling land. So we're going to use 3 points of leverage. Number one, other people's time. Number two, software and automation. And number three, other people's money. But let's talk about that default. We're going to use a software called geekpay.io, and it's a set it and forget it payment system. So we'll collect our down payment via credit card, we'll get our monthly payments via ACH, and it's going to automate it. Now the ACH bounces. Okay, great. You've got 30 days to cure your default. If in 30 days you don't cure your default, we use a land contract, which means the asset remains in our ownership. And so we keep the down payment, we keep the monthly payments, which is now lowered our cost basis, which means if I paid $2,500 and you've already paid me $500, now my new cost basis is only $2,000. I'm going to resell it again and get a new down payment, a new monthly payment, and it's increased my return on investment by doing that. So
So you
I
almost want
don't
people to
mind
not pay.
defaults. I mean, it depends on the property.
I,
There
I'm,
are
I'm-
things you can do. Yeah, I mean, there are things you can do to make sure that you do get defaults.
yeah,
You ask for a really low down payment. That's going to increase your default rate.
yeah,
But if you don't want defaults, you'll try to get a
yeah,
higher down payment
yeah. Quality
and
buyers. I mean, that's
a
with any
better and a
business, right?
quality buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you've got a job, you can afford this land.
Good. Well, the listener is thinking, okay, geez, like I'm intrigued. This is interesting. You say it's like a part-time machine. I know that you were doing it part-time outside of a very corporate investment banking solution or situation that you were in before you left that. If I'm an entrepreneur listening right now, how realistic is this for me to reach out to you and go, I want this little part-time land machine, but I've got a business.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think that if you've got an hour or two of focused time a day, this is a great side hustle to build passive income. As an entrepreneur, I'm really focused on focus.
Yeah.
So I would say, who could you get to really run this for you? If
Yeah.
if your business is going well. If your business isn't going well, then this could be a really interesting pivot into something else.
Love it. Well, and you've worked with a lot of people through your program, and so I want to kind of tap into a little bit of your authority here. You personally have done over 6,000 land deals. Like this is not just an idea you got last week.
Yeah, no, and growing. I mean, I think, yeah, gosh, how many deals? We've done over 200 deals so far this year.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the space is raw for upgrading. See what I did there? Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so but inside of this, like, okay, so we know why land. We know that you have an exact formula. What do some of the people that have either come through your program or that have tried to do this, what mistakes have they made that you are like, ah, if you hadn't have done that, or so I'm trying to keep them away from maybe the bad habits.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest mistake I see people making is fear-based. So they buy a bunch of land and then they stop deal flow. So we're sending out offers, and there's about a 6-week lag between the time you send out offers and the time you're going to get responses. Now we buy all this property. And what do? What does the newbie do? They get scared and say, I'm not going to send out any more offers
Yep.
until I sell this property. And so that is the biggest mistake. And I've been doing this full time since 2001. I've never been stuck with a piece. They all sell at the right price. And because you're looking at an inefficient market, your average ROI is 300 to 1,000%.
Yeah, I love that.
So there's plenty of meat on that bone if you need to wholesale it and make 100%
Yeah.
and move that money.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the concept there of really kind of just paying attention to what you have and also then the flow, right? I was just talking to somebody actually last
Right.
night about kind of this idea of you've gotten to where you are based on these specific activities. Don't stop these activities. It's like that old water pump, out on the farm. You just
Yeah, I
never
mean,
can keep, it doesn't take as much effort as the beginning, but you just can't take your hand off of it.
no, I see it happen all the time. People get bored with making money and then they complicate it. It's true.
It's so true.
They'll be in this nice county, and they're like, "I wanna go to another county." I'm like, "Well, why?
Yeah.
You know, be an expert in this county."
Interesting. Do you see, I mean, that's a problem with all entrepreneurs, right? Like we just want the next thing. Why in that moment, that example that you just gave there, like I want to go to the next county over. Do they feel like that I'm running out of opportunities in this county? Is it the next county over is more like it's a higher end, it makes me feel better? Like what do you find?
I think it's just they get bored with it. They
Yeah,
get bored with the marketing of it. They get bored with the selling of it. They're bored because if they're continuing to make money there, there's no reason to go into a different market. And that's what I see now. To your point, if they're saying there's this area is drying up for me, then absolutely you want to go into a different market. But that's not what I see often. Just see them wanting to complicate it. Like they get bored with it. They want to spice things up, just
yeah,
like entrepreneurs tend to do.
yeah. We tend to create problems so that we have something to fix. I mean, that's just the honest truth. You obviously talk a lot about overcoming really just economic issues with passive income through the formula that you've given here, which I absolutely love. What do you think holds people back from even just being able to get to that place mentally or understanding money? Like that money can come in, I don't have to work for it, and it can actually solve my problems or my dependency, as you call it.
Right, right. So that idea of solo economic dependency, which means if you're personally not working, you're not making any money. And
Right.
so if you have a job, you're a freelancer, you're a solopreneur. I mean, we can even pick on people that have solved their money problems, but not their time problems.
That's right.
You know, doctors, lawyers, right? The
Yeah.
dentist's hands are in the patient's mouth. They're not generating any income. And so that passive income piece solves that problem. And I actually lost. What was the question, Chaz? I went on a tangent
How do
there.
you help people
I
understand
got on
that?
my
Like,
soapbox about solo economic
no, you're good.
dependency
We're on the
and
right
mindset.
soapbox. You've got
Yeah,
your answer in the right department here, but how do you take somebody from not maybe believing that that's possible or whether it's possible for them to
right.
create a system that can pay me whether I do the work or not?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think the mindset. I think it's really interesting that it's it's something that you actually have to do for yourself. I can't sit here and say, yeah, this is going to be right for you. I think that if you're listening to this, like for me, it was right for me because I just like the idea of something that I can work from anywhere in the world. I like to travel. I have some computer skills and hate physical things. I'm, I mean, I have no business owning a home. Like I need, like, the handyman. And it's so emasculating. They come over. I have to get on my computer, pretend like I'm doing something when they're there. So, if you're really handy and you love meeting with subcontractors and you have a passion for that, like traditional real estate is better for you. If you're kind of geeky or nerdy like me, this is something you probably want to experiment with. But I think everything's a test. You have to test it out for yourself.
Yeah, I think you're true. I think you're right on that. I also think that if you just like money, that they're probably right for land. There's anything land, other real estate opportunities, other business opportunities. Because I've been in lots of different industries. It's not really the widget, and I've learned. Luckily I learned this at a very young age. It's not about the widget; it's about the system. And if I
Right.
can create a system, regardless of me, the value, the reason why I'm still going to get paid whether I'm physically working or not is because I built the system or I put the right people in the right place, created the automations or whatever it is that goes into the machine. That's the value that keeps paying over and over, which, I'll give you a chance to talk about this, but some people come across or butt up against, like, is passive income or maybe not passive income, but is earning money after working, is that like a something for nothing? It feels like, well, if I'm not doing anything, there's no value here, but the value is in what we just talked about, the creating of the machine. And you've done so, and you've helped
Yeah.
many other people do so. Talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, the machine is everything. You're right, and the more valuable you are as the owner, the entrepreneur, the founder, the less valuable your business is.
Right.
And so, again, I mean, it's really creating those systems and those processes and those automations. And 90% of this business can be automated with inexpensive virtual assistants and software. And so, it's really just working that system consistently and doing that creates all that value.
Yeah. I used to train hundreds, if not maybe a few thousand sales reps. And it's funny how, it's phone calls. We made phone calls, like hundreds of phone calls a day. And it's just really not that difficult. Like, yes, we need to work on your tone. And yes, we need to work on your understanding of tonality or the script and how to persuade and the sales process. Okay, fine, sure. If you only make 10 phone calls today, I can't help you. So that consistency piece is huge. You get bored with the idea of just making phone calls or just sending out more offers.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
What do you think as far as like regionally is a hot place for land right now? Is it even regional like that?
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other grow.
Yeah, I mean, Chaz, look, I love Kansas City. I do. I love Kansas.
Okay.
But nobody wakes up and thinks to themselves, boy, I'd like some raw land today in Kansas, unless
Hey,
you live in
I was
Kansas.
gonna say, hey,
Yeah. So we want to focus on the Southwest, Northwest, California, Florida, and some wooded areas in the Midwest,
Yeah.
right? So the Sunshine States, places where people would, they can imagine retiring to or taking their family out camping, those types of places. So, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, those are going to be your hotter areas.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't do a deal in Kansas. You can. It's just we want to get our biggest buyer, our biggest market, buyer pool in those
Yeah.
areas.
Explain the market cap here, because you kind of said earlier that you'd run out of money before running out of opportunities or deal flow. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's billions of acres of raw land available in the United States. And because a bank won't lend on this, these are all cash deals. So at some point, you either have to get investors or you have to sell your note portfolio to continue buying. And you can do that for sure. But at some point, the market's so big, you'll just run out of money.
Yeah, there's I was probably 2 or so weeks ago. I'm going through the process of a 1031, or about to start a 1031, and I've been looking at land, believe it or not. Not necessarily in the way that you've done it. I'm intrigued by the way that you do your business for sure. I have been for a while, but this is just a more of a family play. And so I'm looking at land, but my point in saying that is even though I'm looking at land, not necessarily from a flipping perspective, you could just go online and you find several pieces and you zoom out and you're like, wow, that's 300 acres, 2-3 million dollar piece of property. And you zoom out and it's like this little bitty blip. And I haven't even exited the Kansas City region, let
Yeah.
alone the state of Missouri or Kansas, let alone the entire country. So to your point, it's funny when we talk about, acreage, or especially if anybody's listening right now, they grew up around acreage or farming in their family, anything like that. You talk big acreage, quite a bit, especially a big farmer is going to be, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 acres. That's a pretty big farmer, and just such a small drop in the bucket when it comes to the total land mass that's currently not being developed at all anywhere. You know what I mean? It's just crazy, actually.
Oh, it's a really interesting niche and market for sure.
Your background is not in land. Your background, investment banking, and so deal making, maybe I can see the correlation there, but how were you even drawn to land to begin with?
Well, I was drawn to it because I like getting a deal. Like I grew up like my dad was a wholesale grocer. He knew the prices of everything. And so when I first started, I was going to these tax deed auctions and buying up raw land, like pennies on the dollar. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I just like the idea that, well, what's the worst case scenario on this? I own a piece of raw land and it's not anything physical that I have to deal with. It's just a piece of paper.
Just sitting
And
there.
so I could just figure, well, okay, let's say I can't sell it. Well, I could probably barter. Maybe I get, free haircuts or free dentistry for a year, with this land. But, and the taxes are really inexpensive. So I could hold it and I could figure it out. So for me, it made a lot of sense. And if you're the kind of person that gets excited about a deal, right? Like, we're buying something 25, 30 cents on the dollar, then I really like that. And then helping somebody that thought, oh, I can never afford this piece of land, you make it affordable. And then that other piece of it that I don't talk probably enough about is the fact that that person who's buying that piece of land, they're paying property taxes. And those property taxes are improving that county's roads and schools and hospitals. And so there's value all the way along that value chain.
Yeah.
I find very interesting.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and that's where obviously money comes from is what the value is, and so I'm glad we went through that a little earlier. The end result of all this for you, you talk about this a lot in your content, and so I want to give you a little on ramp here to maybe talk about it a little bit, but then how it applied to your life. But you talk about kind of overcoming the rat race, if you will, passive income.
Right.
I can now be free. We've mentioned this thing, but ultimately that leads to a lifestyle of freedom, which we kind of talked about earlier. But what does that look like for you now? What does lifestyle look like for you? How do you define that? What's freedom? What are you doing? Tangible things, intangible things. Like, give us a picture of like, man, you're the land geek. Like, what does this really get me?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of traveling. I've been to Bali and I've been to Africa and Vietnam. I've
Wow.
been to Hawaii, and this is all like Europe, and this is all in like the last 12 months. So I've done a lot of traveling. Number one, I take July off. For years, I've always taken July off and just see, like, stress test the business.
Yeah.
How does the team do without me? And it's the most humbling experience because the business always does really well in July. I'm like, what am I like? Why am I should even work at all? So I think that for me, total freedom is just that the the freedom to work when I want, where I want, and with whom I want, and then the freedom to have the time and the energy and the resources to to really work on things that for me transcend money. So I want a fit body. I want a calm mind. So I work out every day. I do breath work and I meditate every day. I read. And then, you know, that time, well, there's all these happiness studies. The people who are happiest, they have the best relationships. It has nothing to do with money. And so that's really what I want to do with my time is pour in to my relationships. And sometimes they're business relationships. Sometimes, your deal friends become real friends,
That's
which is
right.
awesome. And so, but we only have so much time. I'm obsessed with them. So I try to make the most out of every single day. And and really that's what I do. That's what the business allows me to do. And I get to, ask myself these sort of deep philosophical questions about life and happiness and meaning and purpose. And, you're kind of moving up Maslow's hierarchy of needs into self actualization or transcendence.
Yeah. Where do you think that you were in that hierarchy when you were, before land? And
Beforehand, when I
yeah.
had a job, I think I was just trying to live egoically, if you will. So I wanted to make money. I wanted status. I wanted my friends and family to be like, "Oh, look at you, Mark. You're doing pretty well." And that investment banking job must be pretty good, right? I wanted people to think I was smart or capable. And ultimately, what I realized was number one, no one's really thinking about me. No one cares, right? I bought a, like, you know, a big house and I had like big car. Like I'm not even a car guy. So not like a really value driven life. It was just kind of buying into what culture told me look makes you look successful.
Yeah.
And it was not success. I had to be at a job. I had a 45-minute commute to work and back. I was micromanaged. And so I was living a life that was not truly authentic to me as a person and trying to live up to somebody else's idea of success, but not my own.
Yeah. What was that breaking point for you in that moment where, maybe the person listening right now is already an entrepreneur, so maybe it's not a breaking point of leaving a job for a business, but the breaking point of enough is enough. I need to change something. When did that
Yeah, I
happen?
mean, I think that's that I think all entrepreneurs go through that. Like how much is enough?
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing day to day really what I love to do? Like I'll ask my question pretty much on a weekly basis. One of those things I didn't talk about was I journal every day. And so I ask myself these questions. I kind of journal and think about them is, are the activities that I'm doing, can I do them forever? And is the value, like, is what I'm doing creating value? Is there anything I'm doing that's not creating value? And taking a look at that, mapping out sort of these value engines, if you will, and going through that exercise. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to know what your definition of enough is. So for me, enough is 200% of my passive income should exceed my fixed expenses. So now that I'm way over that, it's all just a game. Now it's like, okay, let's add value and do your best and
Yeah.
enjoy life. And if I wake up and I don't want to do anything, I'll enjoy it, not
Yeah.
do anything. If I wake up and think I want to start a new business, I'll do that. It's.
I do know. I also know that you're a competitor. Even from our little conversation back and forth here at the beginning before we hit the record button, we had to kind of blow some smoke up your skirt just to make you feel good about your mic over there. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But in all
No, it's
seriousness,
true.
no, no. But in all seriousness, I know you're a competitor because competitors win, and you're winning. And so the picture that's been painted of almost like this, blissful mark, I know is true because you've gotten there. But I know that there's the game that you talked about. And I actually loved how you kind of you I can use this as a transition because, even whether you've self-actualized or reached a point where passive income takes over your fixed expenses, there is a freedom in that. Okay, cool. But there's still a game to play. So you kind of identified what that looks like potentially, but give the listeners a thought, especially if they don't have that freedom yet of being able to kind of just play the game, however that looks, because I want to, not because I have to. What does that part
Ye-
of it look like?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have no interest in sitting in a cave and meditating, 12 hours a day, right? I mean, so there is something to be said about the game of life and the game of business and playing it as well as you can. Ultimately, you're competing against the prior version of yourself.
Sure.
So, can I be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday? That's really the competition.
Yeah.
And then having the game and the fun of meeting people like you who, are smarter and they've got better microphones and you take all that
We have the same
and you
mic, just
apply it
just in
to
case
your
the
own
listeners are
life,
curious.
right? And so, yeah, I mean, there's certain things like I'll never be as good looking as you or maybe as talented, but I can certainly take some of that knowledge and I can listen to the podcast and I can surround myself
Right.
with those people and and level up. So
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to be said about just enjoying that game of life and kind of being like a duck, right? You see these ducks and they're totally tranquil, but below the surface, they're paddling furiously. And I think that's the way to do it. I mean, I know it's like this paradox because we all want things and we all strive and there's nothing wrong with it, right? I just think that you should enjoy it while you're doing it. And if you get it, great. And if you don't, great.
I appreciate those not true statements, but I do appreciate them. It does make me feel good, at least. The duck on water is usually used in a scenario of crisis, chaos, but I'm cool on the outside. Nobody knows. But you've used it in a different scenario. You've used it as cool, calm, and enjoyment or fulfillment or happiness on the outside. But I can still work or play the game even inside of the fact that I've achieved quote unquote, financial freedom. Have you seen I know have you seen that in your own life, but have you seen that in the people that have come through your program and that are doing what you're doing, other people that you're around? Like, what does that look like from a like you looking in on someone else, like them actualizing that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that for me is the most gratifying thing is when someone called me and says, "Hey, Mark, you changed my life." And I just was actually just talking to a couple this morning that, they made that comment. They said, "Land changed our lives." And so he was a principal and she was a stay-at-home mom. And now he's more than replaced his income as a principal, 3 kids and young kids. They could spend all day with those kids and they can be totally present. And as a couple, what do couples fight about the most? Right? Money, sex, and the kids. I can't help them with the other two. But if that big bucket of stress in life we call money is solved, it really ripples out and affects all your areas of life and just makes everything better. And you can really choose to spend your time in the ways that, again, are the most meaningful for you. And so, I mean, I just, one of our newest coaches, Roberto Chavez, he was a corporate attorney in El Paso. And in his first year, he got his passive income to 10,000 a month. And the second year, 18,000 a month. Third year, it was over 30,000 a month. Now he's over 50,000 a month passive income. So he quit and he's at home with his baby. Him and his wife can do whatever they want. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that is it truly. I mean, I think some people might be listening, still in disbelief that someone can actually produce 50,000 a month in passive income. But I don't want to miss this opportunity to shed some advice on, those three areas that couples fight on. I think that they're true. You got money, sex, and children, like you said. And I think that the antidote to all of those is just more.
Yeah.
More money, more
More
sex, and
children.
more children, right? Like
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think
you're hesitant, Mark. Why are
yeah,
you
I think
hesitant?
you need to know. I think you have to have your enough point on that for sure.
I had to get a good laugh out of you. But in all seriousness, someone's listening right now, they're going 50K a month in passive income. Their belief isn't there. What would you say to that guy?
I feel the same way. I'd be skeptical too. There's so much snake oil out there. I think that it's you have to do it for yourself. You have to really try for yourself or talk to more people who are doing it. I mean, we have a whole community. Do your due diligence and really see, like, okay, I talked to Mark. Yeah. What's he going to say? He's not going to say it sucks, right? It's a little self serving. All these other people, it's worked for them and they look like me. And maybe I look like you too. So it's great. So I would say you got to try it for yourself. You definitely want to have a, a certain healthy amount of skepticism. I mean, I have, I talk to people and I get this shiny object syndrome and this business looks amazing. That business looks amazing. And that business looks amazing. And ultimately, when I start digging into them, they're not for me. And they don't really, nobody wants to be in a race, win a race they don't want to be in. So is this the race you want to be in? And for me, the freedom race was one that I wanted to be in. And having no headaches race was one I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
But for other people, it might be boring. It may not be exciting. It may not be enjoyable. I mean, I talked to a guy the other day and he's like, I can't get excited about $297 a month in payments. I want to make, I want to do these bigger deals. I'm like, great, you can do bigger deals.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. That's just not the niche I teach.
Yeah. Yeah. 297 75 times or 127 times or
Yeah.
10,270 times. Like,
Right,
come on
right.
now.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it once, you can do it a million times.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. But yeah, I think if anything in life, right? I make it sound easy. Nothing's easy. It's a simple model. It's not easy. If anyone tells you anything that they're doing is easy, it's just not true. I mean, especially for entrepreneurs, right?
Sure.
Entrepreneurship is just not easy. We're all a little, you got to be a little crazy, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot more than a little, but I'm with you, Mark. You've got so much experience. I just appreciate you, sharing your drop of, where you were investment banking and wanting to be in deals, and I love the model that you've created here. I love that the fact that you've helped so many other people do it. If you had the opportunity to go back and talk to you, I don't know, younger, you pick the age, what would you tell yourself?
Well, number one, I would tell myself to learn to meditate and not take all these thoughts so seriously. I would not have suffered as much in my 20s and 30s for sure, and probably would have enjoyed life way more at that time. So that would be the first thing I would have told myself. And I think the second thing I would have told myself was get out of that job faster. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like you said, it's we kind of have to define what we want. And I think that there's a time and a reason, for those things in our lives, especially as entrepreneurs, the ones that want to take that risk to do something different. And so if you're listening right now and you think land is a vehicle for you to help you get there, obviously we'll put all of Mark's information, but give us just a quick drop, social media, website, give us where they can find you and learn more.
Yeah, I think the best place to go is the Landcom, thelandgeek.com. And since you're an intelligent listener for the Gathering the Kings podcast, I have a free book, Dirt Rich, I'd like to offer as well. Just pay for the shipping, and Chaz will have a link.
Yep. We've got the link in the show notes. Click on that, get your free book, Dirt Rich. You're a man of maybe few words, but lots of wisdom in there. So I'm glad I got some chuckles here with you today. I'm thankful to know you and to know just the things that are happening in land, and I think that there'll be plenty of listeners, hopefully, that take you up on that offer for that free book. And you've been a blessing. So I appreciate you being here, Mark, and we hope to stay connected with you.
Thanks, Chaz. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.